This is part A of the Kudila television channel, broadcasting under the Baby Angel Geronimo Manifesto editions at 0750 GMT on Sunday the 23rd of June. Telegraph is anything to go by, then there is absolutely no space being given to criticizing Vladimir Putin for attacking Ukraine. The Sunday Telegraph repeats and allows Nigel Nasty Nazi Farage to repeat the claim that the reason why Vladimir Putin mounted the attack against Ukraine was because the West, meaning the European Union, America, and NATO, had provoked Putin, provoked Russia. Nigel Farage is being given excuses and platforms to add new layers to his previous excuses. The West had provoked Russia and Putin doesn't mean that he, Nasty Farage, actually has been an admirer of. What difference does that make? Whether he is an admirer or not, the fact that he has actually concentrated on the core issue of the attack on Ukraine is the real issue, the real problem. So he is supporting the Russian attack on Ukraine and saying at the same time that he is not a fan of Putin. And there is nothing, there is no platform, there is no space anywhere in the media in Britain today, Sunday the 23rd of June 2024, where the facts of Nigel Nasty Farage's various and had condemned only for not supporting, as Nasty Farage racistly calls, our values. Because left the D-Day celebration, memorial celebration, how could that be evidence of anything to do with any values, let alone our values? As the racist, Nasty Farage distinguishes himself from the Indian origin Rishi Sunak. Point. So this is the endless promotion of Nasty Farage, who is being given the platform to say anything he likes, and he is not being held to account at all, equivalent to 1,000 times anti-Western values if it were is on a license at the elections scheduled on the 4th. Nasti Faraj's so-called Reform Party is not likely to win many seats. Is it that polls after polls, the voters are giving the Reform Party more credibility than they are giving to the Conservatives? What is the mystery? The media is not explaining any of it. Just as in the case of Brexit and the funding, the huge multi-million pound funding that was made available to Brexiteers, the media is not explaining, is not asking the questions as to where the money is coming from. Similarly, Nigel Nasty Farage is not being investigated for the resources that he obviously has been able to use. Who is giving the actual resources to reform? That shows that she has been held to account. It doesn't refer to any law, any act of parliament, any precedent, or even any particular contention by the campaign for the justice for the postmasters and postmistresses. Got anything about her breaking any law. And on the back or in the back section of the private lie has got a style. It's a style. It's absolutely kind of mysterious. It doesn't actually say anything that can be related to as I say, any law, any requirements, any breach at all. So there is another piece about a barrister called Tony Grabiner. Now, Tony Grabiner is also a member of the House of Peers. And Grabiner is a liar. Now, this is not something that Private Lie is saying that he's a liar. Private Lie doesn't call liars liars. It doesn't call criminals criminals. It doesn't call crooks crooks. It goes on and on talking about things that these liars and crooks and criminals have done, but it doesn't label them as crooks, liars, and criminals. And it most certainly doesn't say what, if anything, the so-called Bar Council, in the case of barrister resignation honors list, who has been lying. It's the crook who is the mayor, elected mayor, of a north because of the dramatized reporting by ITB of the campaign against the post office, against Fujitsu, against system, and against the false prosecutions of the sub postmistresses and sub postmasters. But there must be hundreds of others who have sacrificed as much, if not more, than Alan Bates. So giving him a knighthood doesn't really recognize their contributions or sacrifices or the stress and trauma that they have been put through. Now this one is about Teesside, which is the one that peerage in Boris Johnson's resignation honors last year not only provides Tees Valley Regional Mayor Ben Houchen with a ticket into Westminster, it also adds a handiwork-free supplement to his mayoral salary. And it lists the various unaccountable ways in which Houchen, just as Paula Munzilauddin, the Baroness crook from Tower Hamlets, can steal money effectively. Of course, Baroness Paula Munzilauddin and her criminality is not reciprocated, if you like, or equally reported in the mainstream anymore. She was exposed more than 10 years ago by the reporting of the Times and the Sunday Times. But apart from that series of thefts that she committed, there is no accounting on what, if anything, Paula Munzilauddin does as a member of the House of Peers. But then this applies to almost all the members of the House of Peers. But it can be extended to cover the role of the members of parliament. Contrary to the mythology that members of parliament are representative of the electors, there exists nothing in the unwritten constitution in the United Kingdom that says that the members of parliament are required to answer questions put to them by members of the public or by members of the electorate in their electoral constituencies. So there is no real democracy there at all, which takes us all the way back to Narendra Modi. Narendra Modi is featured in the same issue of Private Lie that I'm referring to. That is the issue I'll date number 1626, and the fortnight is covering 21st of June to 4th of July 2024, and the price is £2.99. So let's go to see if we can find Narendra Modi. It's the same piece, same issue of Private Lie that has got in the Rotten Boroughs a 3-column item about former Tower Hamlets councillor Wais Islam, who is being described ironically as a man of principle, because he is standing as an independent against Keir Starmer in Holborn and St. Pancras on the 4th of July, supported by Camden Gaza ceasefire campaign issue at the 4th of July election, because quite a few candidates election scheduled for the 4th of July 2024 are referring to Gaza as an electoral issue. We shall come back and talk about Narendra Modi later. This is a piece about DEFRA. The DEFRA, that is the depraved DEFRA, it is being made even more depraved according to the appointments made by the environment on the Board of Affairs Department. Glover was chief speechwriter to David Cameron when he was Prime Minister, while Lady Rock is a former vice chair of the Conservative Party. Her other jobs include construction giant Costain. In May, Steve Barclay also approved the appointment of former Tory MP Robert Wilson to chair the Consumer Council for Water, which represents customers of water firms. He was already on the council's board as so Oliver Letwin had been So this is the edition, part A of the Kudila television channel being broadcast under the banner of baby angel Geronimo. So the eviction notice, a freedom of information request submitted by the private lie now reveals that earlier in the year, Rees-Mogg lobbied Housing Secretary Michael Gove over the proposed reforms. On the 5th of January, he wrote to Gove thundering that it is likely many landlords will leave the profession as a result of this bill, making life much worse for renters. He enclosed a note from a constituent regarding her concern about the bill and urging that serious consideration be given to the addressing her points. Coincidentally, Rees-Mogg himself, a landlord, receiving rental income from a residential property in London as well as from farm buildings and land in Somerset, according to the Register of Members' Interests. As the Mogstar noted at the end of his message to Michael Gove, whilst writing this letter, I must declare my interest as a landlord. So that's all right then, says private lie. One backbencher concerned by the plans was Jacob Rees-Mogg. The bill is a socialist error. Rees-Mogg declared on his GB News show merits pontificating so we are looking for the piece on India's Narendra Modi. Before going on to discussing Narendra Modi and the latest offering by private lie, the entire private lie is written by people suffering constipation. It's absurdly slow, absolutely slow. This is the piece on page 21 of the private lie. Letter from New Delhi. This is a confection. It's not a letter from New Delhi at all. It is always manufactured in the private lie office. And it says a number of things. There are two columns in the piece. I world. In one parallel universe, Narendra Modi announces himself as the face of history, looking ahead to a third 5-year term as India's Prime Minister, a feat unprecedented in modern times, and just as he had forecast. Back in the real world, his Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, fell short of a majority when our parliamentary election results were announced on the 4th of June. The 73-year-old Modi now relies on a coalition with the Telugu Desam party from southern Andhra Pradesh and Janata Dal United from the eastern Bihar state. Well, I have added a D from before the word eastern. They are set to demand an end to a decade in which Modi criminalized dissent, curbed press freedom, weaponized state institutions against his rivals, sponsored billionaire industrialists, and endeavor to render India a Hindu theocracy. Well, this is, as I say, a constipation piece. It doesn't say things as they are. It's not a Hindu theocracy. It's a fascist regime that Modi has been fronting along with the co-fascist Amit Shah. In one interview on the campaign trail, Modi declared himself not biologically born. Can you believe this? This should have been a heading. This still can be a heading. But no British newspaper or media is running this story about Modi saying that he is not biologically born at all, but dispatched by God to rule India. He is worse than Donald Trump. Even Trump is not saying he was not biologically born, although the lunacy between the two is hardly distinguishable. In another, he claimed, what's happening now will take India towards a brighter future for the coming 1,000 years. It seems that Modi believes that he will be around even for another 1,000 years plus. The opinion polls all agreed. Voters, it turned out, did not. Despite the triumphant populism, they seemed more concerned about spiraling unemployment, mounting inflation, growing wealth disparity, and a controversial military recruitment scheme. The wary scapegoating of minorities, such especially India's Muslims, by comparison, wore thin. Now, Private Lie doesn't mention the number of Muslims in India. Muslims in India alone constitute more than the combined population of all the major Western countries, Western European countries that is, which is a huge number of people being violated every single second. The voter pushback was mostly from the vast marginalized low-caste Dalits. Dalit is a Sanskrit word. Dalit is downtrodden. Across the country, many of whom remained impervious to the Modi magic and the machinations of his vaunted social and media messaging team. The 26-member opposition Indian National Development Inclusive Alliance, India, on the other hand, consistently targeted Modi's hyperbole and concentrated on their respective regional strongholds. Capping it all, Modi ran a presidential-style election campaign in which even the BJP insiders considered he and Federal Home Minister Amit Shah, the PM's close confidant and advisor, were the party's sole candidates for all the 414 parliamentary seats the Hindu nationalists contested. People saw Modi not as a leader, but an increasingly self-aggrandizing figure, a prisoner of his own delusions of divinity, said political commentator Pratap Banu Mehta. Even the ultra-right-wing Rashtriya Shabak Sangh, RSS, or National Voluntary Corps, which founded the BJP in 1980 as its political wing, and which Modi joined in 1958 at the age of 8, has forsaken the Prime Minister, condemning his arrogance and indecorous behavior while campaigning. Without naming Modi, RSS Supremo Mohan Bhagwat recently condemned the Prime Minister's egotism, his harsh and unseemly language, and the untruths he spread via technology. Well, Modi is a war criminal, and that is something that Private Lie should mention, but it's not mentioning. nor is private life mentioned in Kashmir, nor Assam, nor the many other disenfranchising actions that Modi is taking every day. Modi's knockout blow, however, was delivered by the BJP losing the parliamentary seat in the temple town of Ayodhya in the north. In January, Modi had inaugurated a grand temple dedicated to the Hindu god Ram on the site where a mosque had once stood. Not once, for hundreds of years, the mosque stood there, but was demolished by Hindu zealots in 1992. The temple proved a total non-issue for most voters, and in turn has led to burgeoning sentiment among BJP insiders and supporters that Ram is fatally challenging Modi's self-declared divinity. Modi, and is fond of speaking of himself in the third person, remains our prime minister. But voters failed to endorse his brand of populism, disillusioned by harsh economic realities, and looking instead in increasing numbers to regionalist political parties. Now we wait to see if Modi and Shah, having disappointed at the ballot box, can work their magic on the narrower world of elected MPs in Delhi as the bid to keep their rickety show on the road. Well, this is a patchwork. It's confected in London based on various itsy-bitsy pieces taken from Indian media. Now we go back to Wise Islam, the former Tar Hamlets councillor that is featured on page 15 of the Eye. We have mentioned this item before, but it is worth updating on this. In the piece, the private lie mentions Ted Jury, which means that this piece has been contributed to or inspired by Ted Jury, because he is the only one who is given any credit about doing any writing against Luther Roman. Now, Ted Jury didn't write against Luther Roman's corruption. Ted Jury never wrote anything about Luther Roman's abuse of position and so on that we mentioned yesterday. Now, Wise Islam is described as having been a former Respect councillor in 2006. But Private Lie doesn't mention what the Respect Party councillors elected in 2006 actually did, if they did anything. As I have been mentioning, world exclusively originally, at a pre-election due press conference, so-called, held in Ajmal Hussein's restaurant at that time in April 2006. That was just a month before the 2006 election. I recorded the event and I put my tape recorder right in front of George Galloway, who was insulting the gathering by smoking a cigar, the moron. The moron is offensive beyond description. He held up a particular pamphlet and named Michael Crook. Now, Michael Crook is the name that I have given to Michael Keith, the crook. And he called Michael Crook the crook. But he didn't acknowledge the origin of that name, as Galloway doesn't acknowledge most of the things about Tar Hamlets that I have re-edited, if you like. And he said, George Galloway, that was an event happened in April, either 8th or 9th of April 2006, just under a month before the election, council election of 2006. And Galloway on that date said that he had been politically active for about 30 years and he had known many local councils, etc., etc. And in his experience, Tower Hamlets Council was the worst, the most corrupt council that he had come across. Now, remember that was the press conference, the election press conference, declaring the participation of the Respect Party at the election that was held in May. So when the candidates standing for respect or carrying the respect card got in as councillors, what did they do? I can say again and again that they did nothing. Most certainly they didn't do anything against corruption. They didn't do anything for accountability. So the statement that Galloway, the GIT, made about Tower Hamlets Council being the most corrupt council was an empty statement. And the councillors elected on the respect card turned out to be empty, useless, futile. Now, what did Wise Islam do as a respect councillor? There is no mention of that, either in this edition or in the previous two editions of Private Life published, the Rottenborough's column published during this year, which refers to Tower Hamlets Council, which also refers to the 5 Aspire councillors belonging to the outfit that is fronted by Lutfur Rahman, the current incumbent in the corrupt post of Mayor of Tower Hamlets, who wanted an applicant for a planning permission to pay them bribes. There is no follow-up. And despite the fact that Private Eye actually mentioned this, no Fleet Street papers or outlet has followed it up. We shall be talking more about all of these. Just before we finish this one, the appointments to DEFRA, we shall follow up in an exclusive, detailed item in a forthcoming edition, and we shall devote that to the updating on the campaign by baby angel Geronimo. We shall be doing that, and this piece about Gabina, member of the House of Peers, Gabina, let's go to Gabina. Now, Gabina is a crooked barrister. What the Private Lie doesn't mention, either in the piece about Gabina or in the pieces that it publishes about other licensed lawyers, other licensed law traders, is the absence of any role, any accountability role by the Bar Council. I'm still reaching for that page. In the back, so this is page 40, which has got Jack Straw's wife, Alice Perkins, featured as a crook. But Private Lie doesn't say that she is a crook. She should be prosecuted. Now this one is grab in or bite. The grandest figure to take the stand at the post office inquiry so far must be Lord Grabina. In 2019, he represented the post office when it accused a judge of bias after he had found against the organization in the first part of the landmark lawsuit brought by Alan Bates, and demanded that the judge remove himself from subsequent phases of the litigation. Now, this is fact, but the fact also, which is suppressed by private lie or is not included by private lie, is that the Bar Council is a toothless outfit colluding, complicit in corruption by licensed law trading barristers. We shall be continuing on the absence of any legality in the legal profession, in the judiciary. And we shall be doing so in all the editions that follow this. This is just over 1 hour and 2 minutes long video of this broadcast ending at 8:50 GMT on Sunday the 23rd of June 2024.